Okay, well, I've got 7:30 and the list's open at 8:30 here. So, Bill, you want to run this show?
Yeah, that's fine. Thank you to John Wall for coming up with an agenda. Everybody has a picture of the cash position by fund, at least the ones that I know that I sent to the attendees. The only thing that I need to caution you on is that because of some adjustments that we're making to the Gateway Fund, you cannot print until we move forward sometime later this month. So the cash position that you have is for the end of the year. Now, if you're really nerdy and you really want to do things, you can look at the general fund and look at January, and you can see that we spent $42,000 more than we took in. So therefore, $42,000 comes off the number that you have for the for the general fund. And you could look at MVH. So, there's no troubling situations with these fund numbers. The only thing I want to caution you for the people who are new to this thing and spending time on it is if you look at the general fund, there is a $37,000 revenue number in miscellaneous. And that revenue number is for the CARES Act reimbursement that we had. One of the things that troubles me, but I've gotten used to it, is the fact that really should be, we didn't sell the CARES Act any services. That money should actually be reduced from the expense line, but that's not allowed. And when you look at the MVH, there's a $2,700 revenue, and that is for salt that we sold to Michiana Shores. And I think it bothers me is that should be a reduction in our salt expense, but that's not allowed. I tried that my first year and got whacked around by the State Board of Accounts. I mean, to me, any business who would run that, you get and we're getting a reimbursement for $1,300 later on this, probably in a week, from a workers' comp. And that has to be taken in as income instead of reduced insurance expense. We got a refund from workers' comp audit. So in any event, that's the only thing that I note. The only thing that's troubling for everybody who's new to this game is the fact that the expenses far outstrip the revenue until June. So we see a drop every month because the amount of money from building permits and everything else and a few other things that we get in do not match our big tax revenues that we get. So are there any questions on any of these?
I don't know. I don't want to get down in the weeds real quick. I guess I appreciate that 37 that you're talking about. I didn't know what that was. In the riverboat, we got a $8,000 auxiliary staff expense in January. What's that for?
New focus.
New focus?
New focus.
Yeah, and what's that, Bill?
That's our salary survey. We got part of it taken out of 2019, but the second half is in 2020 or 2020. Sorry, I missed the year. The first half was 2020. The second half was 2021.
So we already paid for half of it in 2020. Now that's the second half.
Yeah, that's the balance.
And Bill, they have all the information they need. We should be getting a report from them pretty quick.
Yeah, I think the 23rd is what Mike Konasek told me. So
okay.
The other thing was, Bill, in the seeded fund, there's an allowance of $7,000. Is that fire department?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, that,
The first of the quarterly payments for the fire department.
this quarterly payment.
We can't just call that fire department somehow, somewhere, or it doesn't make any difference, or what?
I mean, we can if, yeah, I mean, I suppose it should, sometimes the headers that exist on these funds, I mean, they're easy to change, but since nobody's ever asked, I haven't bothered to change it. I think that's the first time anybody's asked in the last 9 years. So, but yes.
I mean, it's just back to transparency.
But yeah, but no, it should be more representative. So if anybody looks at that, they can, they can see that.
Well, I don't know if that's a big hassle to change it, as long as we know what it is.
No, it is not the guess to change it. The title is the title. Even I don't have to call the software people. I can do that with my model skills. So I can change it. But as I said, it's always been whatever number that we had that had. So yeah, it probably should be. It's the same thing that goes for the fire hydrants charge. Is also, I think it's not. I'm not sure if that's represented with the fire hydrant charge. The $24.50 that we have.
The audit and legal is $14,000.
Hydrant rentals, it does. I did change to hydrant rentals, but yeah.
Okay, and then the audit and legal is 14. Is that just going out to legal fees?
Yeah, well, those are legal fees, and it is also some of the fees. Call center's not that expensive, but his is maybe another. As part of that is $800 to Sender and Company.
Okay. That's down in the weed stuff. I apologize.
Yeah, I know.
A couple of questions that I had, I wasn't sure what was going on.
Okay. Any other questions on that? Okay.
Well, in terms of cash position, if we look, and maybe this is the wrong place to ask this question, but I know Mike asked me about it. So in prior year, we were roughly 82,000 over budget, I guess, in terms of expenses. Is that, I know we've got, a lot of cash in the bank, but is that a typical year, or was that kind of an outlier, or what do you think about that? Are you saying $80,000 out of over budget, or $82,000 over income? Over income, I'm sorry. Okay. Yeah, that's pretty much of where we've been standing. I mean, in the end, we all agree that the 3-1 CCMG. I mean, it's more that's one of the big expenses that we have to. We don't have income coming in, but we get more paved streets. So I see that as something that we're going to have to deal with every year if we continue to, and hopefully we've still got enough money in the bank to take that up going forward. My sense is that, if much of that money, even though it comes from the state, it really comes from the feds. And so, my sense is that it's probably going to continue to, if we've got, and I'm not going to get political here, but if we've got an attempt to do more infrastructure, I'm hoping that more money is coming from the feds to the state of Indiana, which in turn can come to the rinky-dink town of Long Beach. And so, yeah, so that's, because I think we were all concerned that maybe if we don't step up, it's running out. And I don't see that as happening. I think grants money will still be there also. So those of us, John Wall knows this, and I think Bob LeMay does too, but we have had notification that shortly we will be getting 84,000 or 85,000, I think it's 84 and change, from the coastal grants people, which will add into our cash position. And we've already paid for all of Stop 24. I mean, there is some additional expense that John Wall mentioned at the council meeting, but we're not talking about
a huge amount, a huge chunk. And the vendor has been paid off, and so if you do paving and other things, that will be an additional expense. But the majority of that 84,000 will come in as untouched revenue.
Do anyone else have any questions relating to like the cash positions as they sit? Otherwise, we can move on to that unbudgeted. I thought we ought to run through Pete's quick on the unbudgeted items and talk about. Yeah. But unless somebody else has any questions, Mike, do you have anything on the cash you want to talk about?
No, I do not. Thanks, Joe.
Okay.
So what I'll do is I'll stop sharing what I've got up there, and then I'll pop up Pete's.
Yeah. Okay. So we the next thing on the agenda was the oh, you got this. Okay.
Can you guys see it?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So I guess in my mind, the next thing to kind of think about was, we know where we're at with cash. And then what Pete did was list them just like Bill has for us. I think I sent some of this to you. I'm hoping you got a chance to peek at it.
I did.
Okay. So this little spreadsheet essentially is our forewarning of items that are not reflected in those cash positions that we've just talked about. So this little right-hand section that I've moved to over here are what Pete's calling his unbudgeted cash receipts and disbursements. It probably is worthwhile just to pound through those real quick. And then Bill just sent us, in addition to what we see here, there were 4 items on that little spreadsheet you sent us yesterday, I think, Bill, or 2 days ago, that we might want to just cross-check on this, so we're all on the same page. So when I look at this, Pete wanted to reflect, and we made a few corrections to it since the first version, but he wanted to correct. So, for instance, the stormwater money is going to come in and go out if with the way he shows it here. So the let's see here.
Frisbee, mute his microphone, please. Mr. Frisbee, please mute your microphone.
There you go. Okay, that helps.
Okay.
So if we pound through these real quick, Pete put the stormwater fee in, and he put some expenditures in there. These are not well defined quite yet, but he's thrown them in as negatives, which is fine. What he shows as the excavator there, the 80,000, that's essentially that hydro excavator unit we'd like to purchase. That's not a foregone conclusion yet, but he's got it in there as a negative. There's the stop 24. Well, RISB, again, that's we hope to do something with RISB, but that's a very understated amount there. So we need to talk about that once we get the stormwater operation up and running, which I hope is only about a month away, as far as I can understand with Bill.
Yeah. One thing, John, that if I could interject, the way I understand the GO bond is that it is only for remediation, the way we've written it. If we don't spend that money, then we have to return it in effect, or repay part of that. So we can't just spend it. The Stop 17 things that we've got, to me, since we have plenty of uses for the income from the stormwater utility fee, it's possible that we could use the GO bond if we have not expended it all for SUP 21, 23. So we just need to, we're not pulling a fast one. If that's not part of remediation on the lake, I don't know what is. So it's, it probably is something that we could consider. So I just want everybody to be thinking about that.
Good. Can I ask you a question?
Yes, Joe.
Yeah. You just brought it up. It's about the GO bond that I'm still a little confused, the whole process. That's over 5 years, and we did a bond, so actually the taxpayers would hit it on their real estate taxes. Now, if you're saying that we're going to give some money back if we don't use it, then how do we give the money back to the residents if we already take their money on an annual basis through the taxes?
Well, for you to, that is the weeds that I'm not sure how we do that. All I'm saying is that we can't spend it for trips to Bahamas and everything. So it has to be spent for something that's tied to the GO bond. So I would assume that our taxes if we're still all around, taxes in the 5th year would be reduced by that amount. Let's say there's $30,000 left. Let's say there's $200,000 left. Then there would be effectively we would
Tax
only
credit?
800,000. But yeah.
Okay.
I think it always follows on, Joe. You're actually paying taxes based on the prior year, so it'll be adjusted before it actually hits the taxpayers, I think.
Yeah.
Okay. And then the other question, John, and I know we probably don't have it yet, but how close are we with 21, 23, 29 with some kind of estimates? Are we going to go over the million?
No, right now the projection is that 21 and 23 should be well under at least what we had anticipated, which was approximately 5 and 3, I think it was, which would be close to an $800,000 expenditure. And right now, 28, Bob can help me out on this, but right now, 29, we don't plan on spending anything down there. The way the thing's shaking out right now, we may have to do some tie rod work possibly on our existing wall, and or the park and the town may have to go in together on some stair replacement, depending on how the final negotiations work out. But right now, they may be going it alone down there. So, Bob, is that a fair statement?
Yeah, we're definitely not going to pay for remediation at either the town property to the west or at Stop 29 itself, because we aren't really thinking that we need it. It's not an emergency. And it's very possible that the Vortmans may decide to do it on their own, in which case they're going to have to come back to the building commission, because that, of course, would change the plan completely. But they're rethinking what they want to do.
So the net effect may be that we wind up with a couple $100,000 left after the GO bond expenditures on the ones we're already doing.
Okay. Yeah. And then just the last question on these stops. On stop 21, I heard yesterday that we signed some agreement with the people that own the property next to 21. And I'm just wondering if that's for the public. I'm kind of curious what we ended up saying and what they gave. And because I know there's not going to be any finance that we're going to get from them. We're paying for their stop also, or their land also. But I'm just wondering what we got out of that deal.
I could send that to you, Joe. I've got a copy of that. It's public access stuff, so there's no reason you can't. I didn't plan to put it on the website or anything like that, but I can certainly send you a copy.
Yeah, I'd be curious if that gives us right to use their beach or not.
We always have a right to use their beach.
Yeah.
Why do you say that, Bob? It's
below the natural ordinary high water mark.
Well, no. Well, okay. I'm saying the sand above okay, now you're drunk. The sand above the natural ordinary high water mark, are we allowed to use that?
Well, we're allowed to use that to maintain what we've built, but otherwise, as far as for recreational use, no.
So we didn't really gain much out of the deal.
Hey, Joe,
we protected Lakeshore Drive.
This is not really subject matter for the budget and finance. If you want some more explanation, I'd be happy to give it to you in another venue. But
okay, thank you.
We're going to waste a lot of people's time here.
Okay, John, I appreciate it.
I can give you a synopsis. I'll be happy to call you right after this meeting, and
no problem.
It's all public knowledge. It's all on the record. But I don't think we want to waste a lot of time on that in this meeting.
All right, thank you.
Okay. Let's keep moving here. So essentially, the stormwater we addressed, the Stop 24 reimbursement Bill spoke to a little while ago. That $100,000 is legit. We're going to get the 85 soon, and we'll get the balance of that this year sometime after we do our little dog and pony shows that we're required to do. LBVFD contract upgrade, that's still in negotiation, so that's just kind of a nebulous number. What that CCMG money, that 834 Bill has already paid, I think it was 170 or something around that.
171.
Yeah, in 2020 for the CCMG, and then we still have monies outstanding from the 2020 CCMG, but we also have 600 grand or so in cash against that 8 something. So what we're talking about is a $300 hit in reality. But at any rate, it's on here as a negative, and you'll see down low, I think he's got a positive somewhere to balance that off, or at least in the cash side he does. Stops 21, 23, this is what we were just speaking about. I think the fee there, Bill, is that the origination money there, the 32?
Yep. Yeah,
Okay,
that's what
makes it $1 million if you add those two together. Salary survey, and this is where Pete and I went around and around a little bit. So in terms of 2021, he's got the salary survey at a $16,000 negative. That should really be 8 because I didn't realize, and maybe Pete didn't either, we had already expended the first half of that in 2020. So these numbers are, that's why we're going through them, just so we all understand it. Some of them need to be tweaked. Salary adjustments, I'm assuming, Bill, that's a projection for what we're going to do with the actual raises in the salary.
Yeah, and it's, 101 is kind of, he's lifted, but obviously 201 is street, and, but yes, yeah. I mean, it's going to come out of everybody. Yeah.
Okay. And then property tax, that's just a dart number. That we're not sure what's going to happen with property taxes, although I think, Bill, maybe you can give us a little quick rundown. We were, I guess, pleasantly surprised is too strong of a word, but we did a little better than some of the doom and gloom projections on property taxes in 2020, but we don't know where we're going to wind up in 2021.
Yeah, I don't have any guesstimate either. I mean, I am seeing numbers. I think I've shared with John Wall that the Senate and the CADGET, which goes into the general fund, were a little above what we got in 2020 and 2019. And I expect an increase sans COVID. Without COVID, I expect an increase, but I'm still, I mean, they could change because we don't get to control what we get. We spend what we get, or deposit what we get. So, but right now it looks like we're probably still okay with property tax.
Now, if I understand it correctly, and you can correct me if I'm wrong here, Bill, there's the potential that if the county gets slammed hard with businesses not paying their property taxes and such, that they could reduce ours somewhat arbitrarily, even though our local property people all pay theirs?
Yep. Yes, that's correct. Yeah.
So that's partly why we threw it.
Part of the tenth shoulders. Yeah. So that's
there you go. So the squad car, I'm a little confused on that. I know on your little short spreadsheet you sent us the other day, you had 20,000 in there for police cars.
He had 40,000. We have two squad cars. We bought.
But you showed a projection out with a multi-year payment of 20 grand a year.
I mean, it should only hit. The squad car is only going to hit us for $20,000 in 2021, but then it's going to be another 20 for each of the next 4 years.
Right. So this is over. I just wasn't sure if this was like that one you bought that didn't show up and then finally showed up. That's not what this is. This is actually overstated a little.
Right. So yes,
overstated by 20 then.
Yeah, it is. It is. I mean, it's going to repeat itself though, because we're not buying it outright.
Right. But for this coming year though, it's overstated.
Yes. Exactly. Yes,
building permits, that's another dart number. Pete thought that, or I guess you guys thought that maybe the building permits revenue would be down this year because of the COVID.
Yeah, I would suggest that number is probably low, because when I haven't done that yet, but I need to go into 2017, 2018, and we just had, because part of the revenue that we took in was huge numbers from remediation for the residents. And I don't know, so looking at the revenue for we had well over $100,000, I think it was over $150,000 in revenues for 2020. And I don't think that's going to repeat itself, but our expense was also up significantly. because our building commissioner was kind of living on the lake because of the amount of work he had to do to review things. So it, there is some connection between expense and income. But I think that number, I would like to look at it, but I think for the next meeting, I might suggest that we raise that to minus $50,000 of income. So,
Okay. Riverboat looked like you zeroed that out. That's fine. We can talk about that particular account later on, but
yeah.
The CARES Act, you showed that, that's fine. Hydrant expense reduction, that's because we're transferring that onto a user fee.
Right.
Instead of coming out of the towns. Traditionally, just for Mike's benefit, traditionally the hydrant expense came off the town's expenditure side, and we're changing that into a user fee now, so that's why he's showing it as a positive. The number doesn't.
That hydrant expense. Now, we need a public hearing on that to get that going, right?
No, we're done.
I had thought that Carl.
Oh, I'm sorry, hydrant expense, we're not done. Sorry, yes, I'm sorry. I was thinking of stormwater.
Yeah.
Yes.
I had thought that Carl Sender was going to have that for you, for your meeting Monday evening. And I asked Mary Lou how it went for the first reading, and she said it didn't happen.
No.
So I do have a call out for Carl.
Okay.
To get the status on it, because we want to move that along. We may not want to wait until the next council meeting. You might have to have 2 special meetings for first and second reading. I'll let you know.
Great. Okay.
Then we had so engineering fees, I'm thinking, Bill, is that the old Haas bill from the CCMG, or what is that?
Yeah, I think that's the engineering fee, but we can use it as 30. I mean, we're going to get $15,000, I'm assuming, for the study, and so I think we can expect that it's going to be 35 or more if we go forward with the paving project.
Gotcha.
I mean, that is also going.
Well, we can leave it in there. Yeah, I agree with you.
Yeah, I think it's just it's there, and yeah.
I would like to make everybody aware, because we changed the CCMG. We squeezed them at the town council meeting. I talked about this a little bit, but just to make you all aware, the CCMG money for the coming year, for the year we're in, we won't know exactly what that is until, or if we get any, for a little while yet. But the engineering fees for this year's CCMG will be considerably less, because we're not doing drainage structures, and we're just resurfacing. So it'll be much easier to control our cash outflow on those projects because they're smaller, and the engineering will be considerably smaller because they're not doing anything with underground work. And again, that happened because we told them not to do anything, and then we squeezed them into such a short time frame that they couldn't do their normal pre-project engineering work in terms of cores and that sort of thing. So that changed that a little bit. But I think
there's going to be a negative, another negative number that we're going to have to pay, which is very worthwhile. But if we get a $600,000 award, we're going to have to come up with $150,000, or
right. That's another number number that needs to be added in, just like those 4 line items that you sent us the other day.
Yep.
Where are we at with the engineering fees for the sewering the rest of the town? I think we agreed we were going to do that. Have we actually engaged Haas in starting that or not?
Right. We were asking him for a tighter number, and that I think this may be this line. That's where I'm trying to understand what this line was specifically. But at any rate, you're right, Bob. We did commit to some engineering money for that. So that may be what Pete assumed this would be. But either way, I think Bill's right. We can jump that up a little bit. And then even if we went with the full-blown 600 on the CCMG, you'd have 200 or so in play, including some engineering money. So I think if we use 200 on the CCMG as the town's portion of that, that would cover the CCMG, and then as you're talking, maybe this 35 we could look at as the engineering fees for the whole town sort of thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let's leave that in there. The go bond payoff, that's pretty obvious. That's the first year of that $1 million go bond.
Yeah, but that's confusing to the public because it's really money that's coming in, not going out of the, I mean, it's money that's coming in from my pocket and your pocket and everybody else's pocket. So it's not money that's leaving the town's coffers, basically. We should be collecting.
Well, correct, except it is an offset to the cash, Bill. So in other words, if you look over here, he's got that go bond in there at 959 on the cash.
Yeah.
And then, so it really is an adjustment to our position.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Okay. And then, I'm sorry, go ahead, Joel.
no, okay, I won't. It just what Bill brought up. You got a new expense is the bond. I agree, but you got a new revenue source, which Bill just explained, and what you're saying is what you said earlier, because we're going to be a year behind with the revenue every year, that you're going to double up because you got a 970 already for the bond, and now you got an extra 2. So you're saying the bond expense is like almost $1.2 million, but it's really not. It seems like you're doubling up on that 970 and then -2. And also because of what Bill said, you've got an offsetting revenue.
Well, look, what we're trying to do here, Joe, this little, this is not a financial statement we're looking at. What we're trying to get at here are, where do we really stand in terms of what the original budget for the year is and where we know we have some adjustments to make. So what we're looking at right now are adjustments to our cash position. So when you look over here, this cash position, maybe Joe, you may not have seen all this.
Okay, no, I understand. Okay, let's not. I understand it. I just think it doesn't matter. I'm not going to belabor the point. Let me research this some more, but it just doesn't make sense to me. The first thing that doesn't make sense is you don't have a cash outflow of 970, and you're going to have another cash outflow of 200 because you're getting money in to that's part of the 970 is what you're receiving, and you're spending that money. So then the 200 is not going to be an extra expense.
It's actually, I think we should move on, but I hear what you're saying. I think we could talk about it in the future, but yeah.
Okay. Thank
Well,
you.
at any rate, the 200 is something that does affect our position in 2021. The Srf Escrow was a surprise to us. We didn't realize, or at least I didn't, maybe some people did, but at any rate, apparently with the SRF funding for the Lakeshore Drive Sewer Project, we're obligated to throw some money into an account that will just sit there. I'm assuming in my business that escrow accounts generally get interest, but that interest rates are so low, it's negligible. But at any rate, that will affect our position because that money will come out, not necessarily this year, but sometime soon. So we've got it in as a negative for this year. Depending on how the bids go and when the actual transaction occurs, which hopefully will happen in late 2021, we may have to pop that 300 into the escrow account. So if you add all these up, again, some of these need to be adjusted, but what Pete did there was the unbudgeted adjustments then led to this cash balance of $1,124,000 at the end of 2021. So I guess in terms of our, the 30,000 view, as I say, we still have to adjust this $1,124,000 by what Bill sent us a little bit ago, which was roughly 50,000. That included the roof and the deer loader for the street, the town center roof, the deer loader, the 20,000 police cars, although that's actually up here. So that's a bit of a misnomer,
Yeah.
but, and then phones. I didn't realize we had that much going on with phones. It's like a $20,000 commitment over 4 years or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So
We had a whole new phone
1
system.
I'm sorry. So you take that 1,000,001 and then you take out Bill's 50. And then if we do the CCMG at 200, then we're really taking 250 out of that, which puts you down at 9 something. So if we call it 900 just for kicks, your cash position at the end of the year could potentially be somewhere around 900 if we believe all these numbers and we don't have any other significant impacts. Are we on the same page with this, or?
Yep.
Does that sound right, Bill?
Yes, it does, yeah.
Okay. The only thing I would say is, so really then, okay, I'm a little confused where he went from there then. So he says the unbudgeted, and then he wants to have a 40% reserve. I've seen a few reserve numbers knocked around in some of the emails, Bill. It looks like there's a recommended reserve number, and then we've historically done more than that. But what are you comfortable with? I mean, we've traditionally had like $1 million in the bank, or what was our tradition?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think we've gotten up to 2 million in the bank just for the town, not counting the water side. But you know, I'm comfortable that the comment is 6 to 9 months worth of expenses is what they feel comfortable with. So our accountants have always said that we're very solid with our situation. And, you know, I even had a review and it was clear that we could do the last 2 years of CCMG, and we probably could do another year. And then we have to just look at our rest of our expenses too. And then we got to see what's going on. But yeah, what I see coming out, I think we're comfortable for the year for 2021, unless there's something that I don't know about.
Okay.
Clearly, the cash is going down because we're going to spend much of that $970,000, probably even this year.
Okay. So did anybody have anything else they wanted to talk about relative to the unbudgeted things and where we're at in cash and that?
John, can I ask one question, please?
Yes.
Sure.
Yeah, the $300,000 which we have escrow, can we not get the letter of credit from the bank instead of putting the cash?
That's a great question. I asked that question, and I don't know that I've asked it of the right individuals yet, but in my business, you can always get a payment bond. I don't know, maybe Mike can shed some light. I don't know in the municipal marketplace whether you're allowed to do that, but that what I would assume we could do that, but I don't know.
Okay.
Mike, do you have any knowledge of whether performance or payment bonds in the municipal marketplace are legit?
That's a difficult one to answer, by the way. There's a lot of moving parts on that. I can't give you a definitive answer. That's something we'd have to study.
Okay, I'd like to look into that because I'm with Zafar. To leave that sit for a couple 3 years or a couple years seems kind of ridiculous. But that's a great question, Zafar, and we will approach the municipal county guys and see whether that is. Laurel, I saw you shaking your head. Have you guys already done some homework on that? You're on mute. You're on mute, Laurel.
I'm not sure, but I don't think that you can do that. I can ask Carl Sunder that question actually today when I talk to him, so I will do that.
That'd be great. And I don't know if it's got something to do with the agreement between us and the city, or if it's something to do with the way SRF structures their program. So
now, and I have a question on that. Isn't Michigan City actually taking the bond?
yes, and I think the supposed reason for the escrow is that we are still on the hook in the event the project falls apart. And
No,
also,
I understand.
And also, and this is where I think we need to have a better understanding of what this escrow account is supposed to accomplish. If they're saying that, you know, we're on the hook for defaults on payments by homeowners as well, the way the thing is structured.
Correct.
It could be that that's what this is partially partial reason for this. But we need to understand it. I don't have a full understanding myself currently.
Okay, I'll talk to, when I talk to Carl today, I'll ask those questions and get back with you all.
Super.
I think the starting point should be with the Michigan City to ask them if they are willing to take the letter of credit or not. Because if they are not willing to take the letter of credit, then it's mute.
No, I agree. And I'm not sure if it's Michigan City pushing the escrow or if it's actually the state. So we need to figure
Exactly.
that out.
So that's what we need to make sure that the party whose related party is agreed. Because if the related party is not agreed, then it's basically mute.
I agree. Anything else on the budget? I think at some point, Bill, I don't necessarily want to burden us with it this morning, but maybe, reconciling the gateway budget to what we now project. We had some conversation, Pete, I think, and I, and maybe you and I, at some point, I think it's nice if we can reflect our anticipated budget adjustments through the year rather than, I know the prior history has always been that we didn't really reflect budgeted variances on revenue side on our financials every month. And even if we did it quarterly, are you on the same page with me on that? Or can we?
Yeah, well, I think we've produced the annual budget. I didn't, because we weren't managing to that, but we have, if you look on the revenue side, we've put in that, but we can certainly do a quarterly review of that where we stand. I mean, the interesting thing is, we have, if you look at the general fund, we have 500 and, I can't even, I gotta get my glasses on, but we have well over $500,000 and that's what we're expecting as revenue for this year in property taxes. And we're going to find out that we don't have any of the 581,000 in February, March, April, May, and we'll have half of it in June. So, but I mean, there's no reason why we can't review it, but I think, our main revenue source doesn't come in but twice a year.
Right, but it'd be nice to reflect some of these things that we just talked about, the unbudgeted
Yeah,
things.
that's fine. There are some other things. I mean, whether it's building permits or anything else, we can see how we're doing. Yeah.
Last month we agreed to do this quarterly, and I think we should stick to that.
Yeah, that's good.
Good. Okay. Does anybody else have anything else on the first that budget item? Okay, then if we move on to the unfinished business, I guess, and I apologize, I just kind of threw this together. I tried to take Pete's last agenda and kind of massage it a little bit and throw things in here that I thought we needed to speak about today. And if there's anything else anybody else wants to speak on, we can. We should be able to pound through these pretty quick. Laurel, if you're going to speak with Senator today, I know Pete said that he thought, and Bill and I had some conversation about this yesterday. Pete thought that there was potentially some sort of a deadline on revisiting the CCD 5-cent threshold that we've established. Apparently it gets adjusted every year and we have to request it to go back up to 5, and that Pete thought there was a deadline on that. So can we just rattle, maybe like the end of February, so can we rattle Senator Sage on whether there's some sort of procedure he needs to do to make sure that gets requested?
Yeah, I think that requires another hearing. Maybe we can roll these hearings all together. That would be great.
Yep.
I don't know that it does, but let's figure all that out. If there's a deadline staring us in the face, let's make sure we meet it.
Yeah.
Hydrant and stormwater fee invoicing. I think, Laurel, you mentioned a bit ago that we still need this hearing. We need to kind of get this thing back on the front burner so we're done with it. I know there's a little bit of discussion at the water department meeting, the water board meeting the other day about the fact that the postcard will accommodate what we want to do. A couple of us had some issues on the semantics, but I think we need to get this thing. The last conversation we had with Mary Lou at the town council meeting was maybe for the March invoicing. I guess we've missed the boat for February already, but I really would like to see this thing start in March so we can get some headway. I know we need to send some communication to the town relative to it and get the hydrant fee hearing done, but I think we need to set some hard dates and make this happen.
Actually, Lynn is working with Civic, our software people, to lay out a new statement for us. And she's making good progress with that. So, we would be ready to do when we do the March billing, we would be ready by then. Because I'm sure we'll have the first and second hearing for all this, and if there's anything else that needs to be done with this CCD fund. So we're on target right now, just to let you know.
Now, we had talked
Could we
about.
set the hydrant, can we set the hydrant, when you say first and second, I don't think we need 2 hearings, we only need 1 hearing,
Right.
correct?
Right, we can suspend the rules.
Can we set that hearing soon?
Yeah, we need to have the hydrant ordinance from Carl Sender before we do that, obviously. So
Right.
once we get that, we're set to go. The other
And
thing is with the stormwater fee, we had talked about putting something on the website so that we aren't blindsiding people with that bill. Do you want me to put something together on that, or should that come from the water department?
For the
Our
storm,
baby,
no,
that's our
that's,
baby, Bob. That's the
the
yeah,
town
both
baby.
of them,
That's council, yeah.
Okay.
right. We
Back
had
on the bill.
talked about getting a letter out to all the residents too, that we might explain, all these different fees and why we're doing them. And then putting that also on the website. So that's something that needs to be looked at.
Well, and should we do
Also
those
have-
separately or should we do them together?
Well, they're both town, the town-related fees, so it should be together probably.
So
That's what we
wait
had
to do
talked
anything
about.
on the website until we have the hearing on the hydrant fee. Is that what I'm
Correct.
hearing?
And I'm
Okay.
not sure how soon that has to be in the paper before we can actually have that. How long for a public hearing is it that we have to?
I think it's like a couple weeks, yeah,
Yeah, that's
10
like
days.
about 14 days,
10 days, yeah.
10 days.
Okay, so as soon
So-
as you get that from Carl, let me know and we can get it arranged.
Yep, I will
Yeah,
do
because
that.
we're already, we talked about doing this in January,
Yep.
back, we were talking about it in November, and here we are in February, and we're still at 0 stage. So I think if we can find the answers from Carl today, Laurel, that'd be awesome. And then
Yep, that's my plan.
if he can give you a date for when he can have whatever he needs to have for this ordinance for us, then we can set the hearing date.
Okay,
Okay. And then Bob, right after that, we can write the letters and.
Yep.
Go.
Yep.
The anticipation is though that the March bills will hopefully have this on there.
Yeah, time's a waste and we're losing money.
Yeah,
Let's go.
this is already the first quarter shot in the ass. Okay. Excuse my French. The 2020 CCMG, Bill, if you want to run through that real quick, or you want me to, or?
Well, we still owe, we still owe about $834,000 to Reese Riley. We've paid off all of the engineering expenses. And there are some issues with some additional work and then some issues that John Wall filled me in on, that we may be able to get some credit from Reese Riley for less good paving materials. And so if I remember the numbers, 4822 we wanted and 4828 we got. And so in any event, we'll have to just talk about that. But I think John has been in contact with Tim Haas, so I think that's just going to have to be something. I mean, right now it's not an issue for the town because I haven't got any invoices from Haas. And all just for the benefit of the listeners, that even though the way the paving, whether it's whoever it is, whether it's Walsh Kelly, XYZ, or Reese Riley, the billing always goes through Haas Engineering because they were the ones who actually ran the project. So I haven't got anything from Haas and I haven't got anything from Reese Riley. So, but we do have, we're going to have to come up with $800 and some $1,000 for Reese Riley.
Right, and six of that essentially is in the account already, so.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're talking about roughly,
That's good. It's about, it's actually that number is not, so it's 550 is what is in the account. So we're going to have another 250 to a little more than that we're going to have to fund, but we've got cash, so we're okay.
Right. And just so everybody understands, that's for 2020. And we also just now talked about potentially 200 for 2021 if we decide to go with that project, which we do not have to do until we actually get an award and then decide how much of that award we want to spend.
Yeah.
Okay. Insurance, I just threw this up there. I know it seemed, Bill, you already talked about this in a couple of places, but I know you saved some money on insurances. And then the only other issue I had, this was kind of a personal bug, was I thought we talked about a cybersecurity policy. And as I look around the national press these days, a little municipality got hacked down in Florida. They actually tried to poison their water system with a hack, and it was a little town about the size of ours. So I think we need to revisit that cybersecurity policy.
I need the problem that we have is I will talk to Mark Swistic. We need to get, the problem that we've got is they're very sensitive, and we really don't have a full-time IT guy, but we need to get the IT guy to work together with John Jones, the insurance guy, to give him information, because they won't give us a quote until we go through some steps. So that's the reason. We haven't, they're anxious to sell us the insurance, obviously, and we're not lacking interest in buying the insurance, but we've got to get some information. So that's something that will be, that I'll talk to Mark Swistic about, and we'll see. He just, as you saw.
You want some help on that project, Bill? Do you want one of us involved, or are you going to?
Well, let's see what, the only information that we need is IT stuff that I can't answer, and I don't think you can answer. So look, why don't we see what we've got? I haven't pushed, but I know that the IT guy spent quite a few days, spent a day with Mark, and you've got a list of all the material that we're furloughing and everything else. So let's just see. If I need some help, I'll call.
Okay. I mean, one of the other issues is we've got bank information now for the ACH on the water side, and I think we need to protect all that as well as we can. Yeah. Okay, good. Yeah. The cell tower contract, Pete's had that on the agenda for a few times. I'm not sure what all is going on with that. That's something we need. Is that a long-term project, or is it something we want to just pull off the agenda, or what's up with that?
Yeah, every year we get $847 a month from the cell tower vendor. I don't know why they've only got one account on there, and we don't gain anything if they add an account. But in any event, they're paying us then $10,000 a year. One of the things that I suppose should be not today, but we should at least consider. I can find out what the current cost of the sometime Michiana Shores has sold their cell tower lease to a company, and at one point in time I got a bid of at $110,000 to $120,000 for that contract, and they continually say you should take the money because who knows where cell towers, whether they're going to stay or go. From my point of view, if they're willing to offer $110,000, they obviously think that cell towers are going to remain. But we've looked at it and say, the $10,000 a month is probably a pretty good deal going forward in terms of what they're offering. But maybe that's something that we need to discuss again. It's not that we're.
Again, if you want to, if it's an ongoing thing, we'll keep it on the agenda. If it's not going to happen, we can pull it off. Whatever you say.
I guess the question is, I think maybe we have a new council. Maybe they need to at least weigh in and say, is cash in hand today better than $10,000 a month for the next 10 years? $10,000 a year for the next 10 years. It may turn out that it may turn out to be something that we need to reconsider. I will get a quote. I I get these phone calls almost monthly, and I kind of pushed them off because the last time we did it, Pete and I looked at it, we didn't do anything. But let's restart. Let's restart it. Let me get a quote that we can talk about at the March meeting. Find out what
We'll
it's
leave it on there then. That's fine.
I know our legislators down in Indianapolis are thinking about some legislation that will limit municipalities' abilities to have any control over these cell towers. I think the feeling is that they want to increase the communication infrastructure, and they don't want communities limiting that by charging people too much. So I think we need to see what they're going to come up with, and that legislative session is going on now.
Okay, well, we can leave it on there. We can leave it on there and see what happens. This is another one that Pete has had on there for a number of months. Bill, I don't know what this financial procedures manual, maybe this is part of our action plan.
I've got about 20% of it done. The problem I've got is, they need to have something. I need to have something in case I go away, that somebody has the wherewithal to carry on with all the little pieces that we've got running. I mean,
I think that's something we should. We talked about our town manager slot, and we talked about whether we needed additional outside accounting help, whether from Sender or Baker Tilly or whoever. But we want to just hold that in abeyance until we kind of see how all that.
Let's leave it on there, and we'll go. Okay.
And unless anybody else has any unfinished business, we'll move down to that last one. Monthly financial review. We've already kind of done this a little bit in terms of what we did with the annual numbers. But I think the point was, and Bob, you said we do it quarterly, which is fine. I guess the point of this one is, do we need, maybe we can't answer this until we finalize the town manager effort, but if we want to do this, somebody's got to spearhead it, whether it's because, Bill's got so much on his plate. I think it's fair to say we probably either need, let's say we don't get the town manager thing accomplished, then somebody's got to spearhead this review, whether it's, Sender's involvement or Baker Tilly, or is that fair to say, Bill? Or
Yes, yeah. I will confess to you in a public meeting that Pete Bivots and Bill DeFuniak are partial to Carl Sender because of all that he has done, but I'm very pleased with what I'm seeing from Baker Tilly. So we just have to, we'll see. We still have to finish this gateway report, and there is some adjustments that we have to make to the civic system. But for the gateway report, so they still owe us something. So
okay.
So let's. I think that's something that it's all wrapped up in this town manager and what we go forward and how many accounting firms we work with and that kind of thing. Okay.
Okay. I know Mark's on. I'm hoping everybody got the emails relative to what he wants to talk about. I think there were some issues with what the police department salary budget looked like in terms of overtime and auxiliary officers. I wanted to touch on, before we give it to Mark, Bill and I had some conversation. There were some salary adjustments made late in 2020. My understanding was that we were going to pass the salary ordinance that we needed to pass kind of in the late hour that month. We had to pass the ordinance, but we put in some ranges with the understanding that the council would review the specific salary adjustments sometime in the new year, meaning 2021. And then I think between Bill and the prior chief, you guys actually made some adjustments in December. Not to say that they shouldn't have been made, or maybe they needed to be of a higher magnitude, but I think as a cautionary tale, I think the town council, in my estimation, Bill, you can correct me if I'm wrong.
We made no adjustments to salaries except for the part-time officers. So let me basically talk about first of all, what I learned from the audit is I thought I was very clever when I put in a salary range, and I found out that none of the people, it didn't occur to me. I mean, when I was questioned, they told me that the people who had started here in high school after high school were fine within the range, but if you came in with any experience that you weren't worthy. And so the one thing we'll have to do going forward is explain that this is not a seniority scale, but because I said, well, then we really overpaid for the police chief, correct? Yes, that's right. You should come in. So we have to hire somebody out of high school or college to be justified. So we need to do that. But let's talk a little bit about right now we are paying this according to, which is, I guess, a violation of our procedures. We're paying the officers, the part-time officers, $25 an hour. The range is 21 to 25. Mark and I would even like to see it be raised to $27 or $28. The officers, the current officers' ranges of overtime are $35 to $45 or $46 if we take the least senior to the most senior. And we have to pay those people 11.2% of perf. So that, you do the math, it's pretty simple. Our salaries for even our least experienced officer in overtime is 40, and it goes up to probably 53 or 54. So it's a kind of a no-brainer to see where we want to go with this. So I would like to make a motion that we approach the town council and at least give Mark the option to raise the part-time officer salary to $28 an hour, which still is it's above what we're paying now, but the $21 an hour doesn't spur anybody to take an extra shift. We pay the building inspector $28 an hour. We pay the lady who runs very successfully the kiddies program in the summer, which we had to cancel, of course, this year. But if they don't want to show up for work, they don't need to be replaced. But if somebody doesn't want to show up for work or has a doctor's appointment and needs to take a day vacation, we cannot not have somebody on the street. So that's kind of an essential that we have to have. So I see this $28 an hour as being, an essential way to guarantee that I don't want to pay. Our $21 an hour doesn't match what Trail Creek is paying a part-time officer. And so, if it's a choice between working for Trail Creek or Long Beach, it's an easy decision. So I don't know if anybody's got any suggestions or comments on that, but we do need to raise that rate.
If I could just add a couple of things to what Bill just stated.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Mark, go right ahead.
Okay. I agree with everything Bill's saying. I just want to add a couple of comments. Just last night, I seen an email come out that a local financial institution is hiring off-duty police officers, and they're paying them $45 an hour. And obviously that assignment filled up pretty quickly. That's what most of the officers are getting for off-duty rates is 40 to 45. That's also a union contract that Michigan City has where they and also the sheriff's department, many of them are making 40 to 45. I'm not advocating anything like that. I think 28 is, a very good rate for what we're asking these officers to do. But one of the things I want to keep in mind, just kind of inform everybody, is the officers are required to pay self-employment tax. So they receive 1099. So they're obviously paying tax on the wages that they'll earn here. They also have to buy on their own law enforcement liability insurance. This is a state plan where they pay a couple $100 a year that supports them in worst case scenarios of use of force or anything like that, outside of what any other municipal or town government would cover them as well. Many of these officers are specialized in various areas. They're either SWAT operators. One of the officers I have working part-time is scuba and previous SWAT operator. They're detectives. They're DRE experts, which are drug recognition experts. They're accident reconstructionists like Brian Wright. So if anything major was to happen in the town, I have resources that I can call in, specialized officers that have specialized training that took either, months or years of training to receive these specialties. So we're kind of paying a little bit more for what we're getting. And I think, 25 right now is a fair number, but I really would like to see it someday getting up to 28. But definitely 21. I know all the guys that were working part-time before just weren't wanting to do it for $21 an hour. So thank you.
Well, I think, part of the impetus with the Human Resources Committee, and I think this might be Mary Lou on here, but our Mary Lou, I'm not sure. There's a Mary Lou somewhere here that may or may not be Mary Lou. Oh, good. Hi, Mary. So I think in terms of the HR committee, I think the overriding philosophy needs to be that those guys address some of these things. I think, it's great that we're talking about it. And I know we have this budgetary issue in a minute to speak about. But I mean, personally, I think you need to meet the market. That's my personal philosophy. I think if the market is XYZ, you need to meet it. And if we didn't have the right dollars, I think we need to, make that correction. That would be my recommendation. I don't know if we need an actual motion from this group or not, but.
Well, I think we do because the salary range covers 21 to 25. And so we're not out of range to at least approve 25. And I think it's got to be the council to agree to pay $25 an hour. So I think it's outside the scope. I mean, we can raise it from 21 to 28 in the HR department, but I think we need to, at the next council meeting, I would like to see it on the agenda that the approval is given to pay $25 an hour for that. I mean, I think it's the job.
Along with that, I'm sorry, Bill. Yeah, along with that, I guess it'd be nice if when we present it to the county, and we can do a motion here. That's not a problem. Along with that, I think we need to, and this kind of dovetails the overtime budget issue that Mark brought up. I think it'd be nice if we're going to talk about that 28, how that'll influence the annual numbers too. Maybe if we can, Mark, if you can say, okay, I project X number of hours at whatever that differential is, and then okay, so maybe it's a $20,000 adjustment, maybe it's a $50,000. I don't know, but we need to. I think it'd be nice to have those numbers to present to them as well. But no, if you want that, you want to somebody make a motion.
I'll make that motion.
I make a motion that we approve $25 an hour as the going rate for, and then we can talk about the other thing. But I want a motion to raise the rate to the part-time officers to $25 an hour.
And just to be clear, that's recommending to the town council.
Right.
Yep.
So that all you guys that are official members of this group need to weigh in.
I'll second that motion.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye. No, I don't oppose. I am in favor.
Oh,
I didn't get my mute off quick enough.
Any opposed?
Okay.
Okay, so that's a unanimous.
Laurel.
So just to keep in mind, we get the survey back on the 23rd of February, but I don't know when we'll have time to look at it, hopefully before the next town council meeting. Then the ranges possibly could go up when they've looked at the community, so we'll have to keep that in mind, and maybe we can make that commitment that Mark's looking at.
Yeah, just for the benefit of the attendees this meeting, we have in the past and will continue, I believe, paying the officers as part of the payroll system. So I think 1099 is kind of a burden for people. So I think I have not had any officer complain about the fact that he gets a W-2 and all of his taxes and FICA and Medicare and everything are all taken care of. So that's what we will do. So all the part-timers go through the procedure of getting into the payroll system. Okay.
So does that mean they don't stand their own self-employment taxes, or they still have the self-employment?
Well, they probably have that. I'm not sure what they do with that one. That's going to be a Mark question. But I just wanted to make it clear that they are, because what Mark is indicating is some people who are contracting with officers are paying by 1099, and that's not the case in the town. So I think typically that we shouldn't be paying 1099s or anything. When I came in here in 2012, I found out that the council was being paid in 1099, and I knew that was improper, and so we changed to get the council as employees. And right now, I guess that has been a problem, because I have to attest in every gateway that the council is not being paid on 1099s. So, and all people are paying, and so the water board and everybody are paid as employees.
John, to your question, if they are W-2, then they will not have to pay self-employment tax. So that's
Okay.
good to know.
But it's still, the difference is clear. 28 is still, 2/3 of 42, and it's almost half of an overtime rate for a senior officer.
Right, but we need to be comparing apples to apples, though, Bill. If 28 is on a W-2, then all the consummate taxes and Social Security and everything else needs to be reflected. So we're not comparing 28 to, if I understand this correctly, correct me if I'm wrong, Mark. We're not comparing 28 to a raw 28 to a raw 54. It's a 28 plus employment taxes and all, and then comparing that to a 54, which is a 1099 number. Is that correct?
No, go ahead, Bill.
What I'm trying to say is I'm comparing 28 to a senior officer who we have to pay 11.2% worth of perf, and that gets his time and a half rate up to about $56 an hour. So if we can't find somebody to a shift, we can't say, well, let's skip that shift and hope the bad guys don't show up. We have to have somebody on the street, and then it becomes an overtime. So I'm not talking about other communities or anything else. I'm talking about town of Long Beach. The overtime rate for a senior officer is well over $50 an hour, because we have to pay perf on top of that. We do not have to pay perf.
Yeah, I understand that, Bill. But what I'm getting at is, it'd be nice, Mark, before we present this to the town council, can we just have a little tabulature that shows, okay, the market is X with a 1099 without employment taxes, and here we are with a 28 with employment taxes. Equate those two for the public, so they'll understand that we're meeting market, but we're also paying it on payroll rather than 1099. So we have a direct comparison.
I understand. Mm-hmm. Very good.
Can I make one comment? Is there any reason there is no budget for each department? Because each department should present their own budget, income and expenses, so that way you can really compare that. Do we have enough funds or not? We're looking at these all as a consolidated basis, but there is no presentation of each department. I think that will solve the problem, not only for council to look at it, see how much funds we have and how much funds we can allocate. And so I think my suggestion is that each department should present their own budget instead of one person presenting the whole budget. And then you can decide that how much we can afford.
So far, there is a budget, but it's probably not as convenient in looking at it. I mean, we have a budget for part-time officers. We have a budget for overtime. We have a budget for full-time officers. We have a budget for perf. So that you can find it, but you're right. If we could present something that's a little more concise for somebody, there is a detail that Mark can manage to. So, but
I was generally speaking, I wasn't really speaking only for police department. I was saying for all the departments, like you have water department, you have a fire department, you have police department. Everybody should have their own budget presentation. So see that what is income and expenses they have. And then you can decide what money you can afford and cannot afford. Because as I said in the previous meeting, I think we are carrying on increasing these expenses on the citizen, even a $5, $10, $15, but we are not finding a way to how do we reduce the burden on the citizen. We can maybe all of these people who is here, they can afford it, but some of those people is $10 is a lot of money a month, or $15 a lot of money. And I think that's what my suggestion is, that each department should be presenting their own budget.
I think the intent is to do that, and I think Mark fully intends to do that. I think it's been done, maybe not as publicly as it should be. I agree with you, Savar. The fire department traditionally we negotiated back 10 years ago a contract that had a fixed dollar amount every year, so we didn't present a budget over the last 10 years. But moving forward, I think Mary Lou would like to see us present a budget every year, which we can do for that 28 to 35 for the fire department. And I think Mark fully intends to do that with his, I don't want to speak for you, Mark, but
Yeah, okay,
No, that's correct.
yeah.
I think the water department is up for air right now. We're entertaining some thoughts about what we need to do with that over the long term. But I know Laurel presented a budget at the beginning of this year as well, publicly. So I think there are some things that maybe you're just not aware of, but I agree. I don't disagree at all with what your point is.
Okay.
The overtime budget then, Mark, I know you sent out an email. I can pop it up if anybody has not seen it, but essentially you were questioning the number that was plugged in for OT.
After having the opportunity since sending my email, I've spoke to both Bill and Laurel, and I've got a good understanding what happened. Obviously, COVID was kind of a strange year for everybody with budget preparations and that. I think moving forward, and John, you touched on it, before June of this year, I'll have something drawn up with Laurel where we can actually go line by line and look at some of the areas that were previously cut here at the police department and put some of those numbers back to where they were before, especially like with overtime, equipment, auxiliary pay for the auxiliary officers and that. Bill and I discussed for now, I think, in either our 100 accounts and our, wages for both, the marshals and the other accounts we have within the 100 accounts, that we're going to try and get through this year. But if there comes a point later in the year, then Bill and I will come up with a plan, I guess. Correct me, Bill, if I'm wrong, to maybe go to the council or something.
One of the things that I discovered, is that things carried forward from when I got here in 2012. And so I found that some of the overtime hours were being, because of a system correction that needed to be made, so the money wasn't getting lost, but we were actually recording overtime as regular time. So the overtime and regular time numbers jibed, but we weren't losing those dollars. But now we got to have a better idea of what's really overtime and what's. So 2021 will be more reflective of what we've got. But I think our budget is fine for 2021 in terms of salary and overtime. You will see that we will be under budget for the regular time and over budget for that. And we may decide we want to move some money out of regular time and into the other, and we can do that. But that's really getting down in the weeds. So I don't want to do that right now. So, but that's something.
Yeah, fine. And I know there was a question raised. I think the HR group is questioning. We need to just massage the way we pay the overtime to the police as well. I think there was a question about the way the employee manual reads and the way we're paying the overtime with the police. And I think we visit that between the HR group and.
Yeah, I think we're paying the overtime right, but I think the manual needs to be adjusted because there's something talks about monthly and everything else, and that's not it is not that difficult to cover the overtime because, we get 7 12-hour shifts normally. And then when they have an overtime, I think we have to modify the manual because it confused the HR committee. So I agree.
And John, I think moving forward too, we just, on a police side, we want to have a better, accurate description of what our spending is in specific categories and that. So therefore, working on our line items moving forward into the 2022 budget, and that you have my assurance that between Bill, Laurel, myself, I'll work to, hammer down contracts, monthly expenses, annual contracts, all that stuff, so that I'm starting to get a better feel of what we're taking on as a police department. Even like simple things from generator maintenance to, the pumping of the septic, all that stuff that goes into building maintenance and that. So I'll have a better handle on a lot of that stuff here in a couple more months.
Great. Unless anybody else has any other questions, I thought this capital asset plan is something I think there's.
We need to do it, and I'm going to have to contract with somebody to do it. So it was my predecessor wanted to do it, and I wanted to do it, and there's not any time to do it. So we got to bring somebody from the outside to do it. So
we'll keep that on the agenda and depending.
Keep it on the agenda. So
okay.
Maybe we'll have a contract with somebody at the next meeting.
Okay. Anybody else? Any other questions or public input?
All right. I move to adjourn this meeting. Do we have a second, Laurel? Hand is raised. Okay.
Yep.
Hand is raised. Okay. Everybody in favor, say aye. So
Aye.
Wall and Swiss Stick don't get to vote.
All right. Goodbye, everybody.